It's time to rank this Dynasty rookie wide receiver class. And let me tell you, not great. Let's talk about it though. And there are definitely still some strategy points you could take from this in terms of which wide receivers you actually should be targeting in your Dynasty rookie drafts and which ones you shouldn't. If you enjoy the post-draft videos and the rankings, make sure you drop a like. Make sure you subscribe. We're going to be looking at the OG bakery today, the wide receiver bakery, and how we're going to use that to analyze this class and also decide who we are going to take in our own Dynasty rookie drafts. And so let's start in the S tier with these rankings. There were two, in my opinion, very, very good, maybe bordering elite wide receiver prospects in this class, depending on how you define elite. But in terms of in the bakery, Travis Hunter is the wide receiver 2 and Ted McMillan is the wide receiver 1 in the bakery. But what you have to understand is Travis Hunter is, a bit of a dip below Ted McMillan because his analytical profile based on the things that are important in the bakery, it didn't really blow anybody away. And when you're looking at where Ted McMillan falls, Ted McMillan is in this green tier in the bakery. When you're looking overall, historically, it looks like Ted McMillan finishes as like the 20th overall wide receiver in the bakery. Historically, he's in a tier with guys. I'll just go ahead and put the tier up here. Waddle, Devonta Smith, Marquise Brown, BTJ, Chris Olave, Rome Odunze, Jerry Jeudy. You've also got DK Metcalf, Xavier Worthy, Brandon Ayuk, Jordan Addison, Juju, T. Higgins. And so, it's a pretty good tier. And when you're looking at the hit rates for the tier that Ted McMillan's in, we don't have anybody in the top 2 tiers this year. And so historically, I just want to tell you this about the class, right? Nobody in the top 2 tiers this year. Last year we had 2 guys in the top 2 tiers, and we had 5 guys in the top 3. The year before that, we had only 1 guy in the top 2 tiers and 2 guys total in the top 3 tiers. The year before that, it was 6 guys in the top 3 tiers. The year before that, it was 4 guys in the top 3 tiers. This is on record one of the worser bakery wide receiver classes we've seen.
Which we knew.
Which we did know. But it doesn't help. But it doesn't help, that some of the guys that we really thought would go higher ended up sliding and going to terrible landing spots. Like that's ultimately what it is for a lot of this. But Ted McMillan, again, I think it's pretty safe. The hit rates in this tier, 88% wide receiver 3, 81% wide receiver 2. However, the wide receiver 1 hit rate is only 31% compared to 100% in both the top 2 tiers. So he's removed from the conversation of, he's this like foolproof, bulletproof prospect. And he does have an analytical profile of, for a guy that went in the top 10, and I just want to look at the analytical profiles of some of the other guys here that went in the top 10 historically. I'm just going to filter the bakery by first-round draft capital here, and I'll know off the top of my head which ones of these guys went. But when, again, of the guys that get first-round draft capital, Ted McMillan is about in the middle. However, when you're looking at the guys he was around, Waddle did not go in the top 10. Smith, J-Mo went like top 15. BTJ, where did BTJ go? I don't remember. He went
17th overall.
Right? Rome Odunze was top 10. Judy wasn't. Bateman wasn't. Ridley wasn't. Burks was outside of the top 10. So but for the guys up here that did go top 10, Marvin Harrison Jr., Jamar Chase, Malik Neighbors, all of those guys are at the top of the bakery. Even guys like Drake London went top 10. He's up here even much higher. And so those top 10 guys, we haven't seen a lot of those guys. Most of them have graded out better than Ted McMillan is grading out in the bakery, and that's confirmed. So an average analytical profile for a guy that goes top 10. Travis Hunter, on the other hand, again, we don't really have to talk about the analytics. It seems like Travis Hunter is going to start playing wide receiver, according to what the Jaguars have said so far, and then transition to defense. But Travis Hunter is already, in my opinion, being underdrafted in Dynasty rookie drafts. And I think you're going to see him being a pretty good value, falling to the 107, 108. And I'm definitely taking him there. I think he's going to be an elite wide receiver in the NFL. I think he has at least the ceiling. It's just, basically, I don't know. People are lower on the situation than they were before. And I think this is actually a pretty good situation for Travis Hunter. So both of these guys are in the S tier for us this year for our wide receiver rankings. And then you get into the fun part here, honestly.
Yeah, so Matthew Golden's still fun.
Okay, sure, yeah.
That's a very good, ideal landing spot for him. But maybe not ideal from a draft capital perspective. A lot of people wanted him to go higher, expected him to go higher. We saw so many mocks with Golden going like as high as the Dallas Cowboys at 12 that we were low-key expecting him to go in that range, but we weren't shocked when he fell. Because his analytical profile, talk about the shortcomings in this class. Golden being the 3rd wide receiver off the board with first-round draft capital is in that yellow tier where the hit rates are average at best, really below average. And he's still, with first-round DC, he grades out as like the 5th best wide receiver in this class, which is a little bit weaker. But I will say, from a schematic perspective and the opportunity that he's going to get right out the gate there in Green Bay is going to be very beneficial and very helpful for him to have a solid chance to dramatically increase in value if he does really show out as a rookie. He doesn't have to do too much. I mean, you saw what Christian Watson did his rookie year in Green Bay, and he had a couple games where he had a couple touchdowns and he shot up boards. Matthew Golden, we've done a ton of mock drafts with him, and we've seen him fall, I think, as far as the 201, 202. If you're getting Matthew Golden at like the very tail end of the first round, early second, I think that's a great value. I think that's a great spot to go get him. I will say that when you're looking at like late first round wide receivers versus early second round wide receivers, at least in the past couple of years, there hasn't been that much of a difference, especially last year. You had you had Pearsall and Leggett being the late first round receivers that were very unexpected. And you had Keon Coleman, Jalen Polk, and Lab McConkey, who obviously was the big hit in the second round there from last year's rookie class. Obviously, it looks a lot different. The landscape looks a lot different this year in 2025. But with Matthew Golden, I think that it's definitely a good shot to take, given his draft capital, given his landing spot, given the fact that from a skill set perspective, he really is the only wide receiver in that room now that has a versatile enough skill set where he can actually take over a true wide receiver one role in that offense. We haven't really seen that yet for any wide receiver in that room currently. Christian Watson's a deep threat. Jaden Reed's a gadget guy with some big play upside. We really liked him last year as a value. He looked like he was panning out, and then he really tapered off towards the end of the season, and he's lost a significant amount of value, understandably. I think all these guys, Romeo Doubs, Dontavion Wicks, are all going to be role players, and Matthew Golden can kind of start to grow into this top option, top role for Jordan Love if he really pans out. And I think an important thing to note as well contextually is that Gutekunst never takes first-round shots on wide receivers, ever. So if he's going to take a first-round shot on a wide receiver, you best believe that they're going to do everything within their power to get it to be worth it to select Matthew Golden there. So I think all things considered, the DC we expected from Golden it's about right what Avery and I had expectations wise for Golden, and I think we're even a little more optimistic than we previously were.
I think it's a good landing spot
because this is a landing spot that you would have wanted to see for sure. And then Emeka Egbuka we will include in this tier because he was drafted ahead of Matthew Golden, and we talked about this in our round one reactions video. But with Egbuka, it's like this guy was mocked to Tampa in the early offseason because we expected Godwin to not be re-signed. He literally plays the Godwin role in an offense, or at least he did at Ohio State. Maybe, just maybe, this is possible. Maybe Tampa believes that he can play a different role. Maybe Tampa believes that he can be a complementary asset to Godwin in a different way, since Mike Evans is the one that's actually most likely going to be out the door after this season. Because here's the reality, guys. As long as Mike Evans and Chris Godwin stay healthy this year, which is, in fairness, a big if, Egbuka will be the third option in that offense. Now, if and when Godwin or Mike Evans miss time this season, we're talking about a whole different thing here, because McMillan, you saw what happened to McMillan last year. The moment he got opportunity as a third-round wide receiver, he was out there balling because Baker Mayfield just has so much volume and he's giving him all of the opportunity in the world. Let's not get too low on Egbuka because of the landing spot. As confusing as it is for us to see like how this is going to be complementary for the existing assets in that offense, Egbuka at any given time this season is literally going to take one injury, 2 games for Godwin or Mike Evans to miss, which we have seen consistently for the last 3 years. Those guys miss time, where Egbuka will shoot up boards when he immediately starts producing. Baker Mayfield is one of the top QBs in the NFL right now from a volume perspective, what he provides for the receiving assets in that offense. Like that is objective fact. He was one of the passing leaders last year, and he was a surprising passing leader the year before that. They are getting every single weapon they possibly can for Baker to produce in that offense consistently. And I think Egbuka, I think this is a JSN type of thing. And ultimately, I'm going to trust the talent level, the prospect profile, and the draft capital, 19th overall draft capital. We compare this to the JSN situation. Egbuka was drafted higher in this draft than JSN was in 2023.
Correct.
And you've got 2 veteran guys that are going to be on their way out the door at some point, Mike Evans especially. This is one where I think we kind of keep our head above the waves, draft the talent, trust the situation, and we're going to have a teardrop here starting with Burden in the B tier, where it's a little bit of a different sort of situation because you got a bunch of young guys that don't look like they're going to be out the door anytime soon.
Yeah, and whether or not you're drafting these wide receivers onto your dynasty teams is entirely dependent on your team build. It's entirely dependent on who your rookie draft targets are and where you actually have your draft picks. And so Nathan and I are giving you specific specific advice. We're doing team blueprints now for really probably the next 2 weeks, so we can make sure that as you go into your rookie drafts, you have personalized specific advice that is specific to your team, because every Dynasty team is different. And this should give you a second opinion and an overall plan to make sure that you are making the right moves. So you can get that at flockfantasy.com/domain. Take advantage of the special annual Motherflocker tier with code domain. Comes with 2 free team blueprints. Each of them include rookie draft blueprints, which will tell you with your picks, here's who you should take, and then here's who you should target, here's your strategy for each round, and here's what your team need is. And so we can give you specific personalized advice, and you can take advantage of the BOGO that you get with the annual Motherflocker tier with code domain. You can sign up. Link is in the description. Like I said, you have to use code domain when you sign up to unlock it. But the B tier here, we're going to have Luther Burden in this tier. And Luther Burden, this was the bummer of all bummers.
Truly.
It was the king bummer. It was Bummerooski.
It didn't hurt his analytical profile at all. He got the draft capital that was like,
but it
fine.
did in the sense that when you're talking about Luther with first round draft capital, I mean, he was in that top tier or that tier with Ted McMillan. In fact, he was right behind Ted McMillan. And so
did he actually jump down this year?
He's in, like,
I didn't realize
Hunter,
that.
Burden, Egbuka, Golden, Higgins, Harris, Thornton, Kyle Williams, and Ty Felton are all in the same analytical tier.
I thought Burden stayed in the green tier.
No, he dropped.
Changed. Okay,
so it actually did make a difference.
Yeah.
And with Burden, I mean, not only do you have the analytics that are like, now you have the bakery, and you're like, and then now you have the situation, you're like, and then you have the immediate production, and you're like,
I mean, objectively, guys, Luther Burden has the least amount of team investment of any of those assets in that offense at the moment.
Bingo.
At the wide receiver and tight end position.
DJ Moore's
That's
on
just a fact.
a bajillion dollar contract, right? Roma Dunze just had a top 10 draft capital spent on him, as did Colson Loveland.
So here are your 2 scenarios. Scenario number 1, they plan to move someone in that offense because it's way too crowded. Scenario number 2, they plan to ride with every single one of those guys, every single one of them, and schematically, Luther Burden would be the gadget guy. Which is...
And look, he's going to be great for their offense.
Early second-round pick on a gadget guy.
And he would be great for their offense, but I think really what Ben Johnson, when he's like, I just want Caleb Williams to be able to throw the ball whoever, and they're going to be awesome. But when you have that and you have 4 or 5 different people that could be fantasy production, what ends up happening is you have volume issues. And the volume is where we're going to have the issue with Luther Burden. Still love him as a prospect. Still think he's going to be great as an NFL player, but you do have to take into account and keep in mind that the short-term, at least the short-term outlook for him is not good production-wise.
Why the actual heck would you not just draft a running back?
I don't know, man. I do not know how Swift got out of this scot-free, as Ryan would say. I have no idea. Scotch-free. I do still think it's scotch-free, but you can, even if I'm wrong, I don't care. Let's keep going. Jaden Higgins got drafted to the Texans. Look, I think Jaden Higgins is going to be productive right away there. And yeah, I question the fit. I question the complementary piece with him and Nico. I see some similarities in their game, to be honest with you. And analytically, he's the wide receiver 6, but he's in this huge, ginormous tier of guys here that we talked about. The reception perception was not great for Jaden Higgins. And so his bakery score puts him historically, again, in that yellow tier. The hit rates for the yellow tier, again, 43% wide receiver 3, 20% wide receiver 2, and 17% wide receiver 1. Oh my gosh, that's bad. It's rough. And you're talking about that hit rate. If we could just have this retroactively, as you're editing the video, if we could just have this tier 4 hit rate up when we talk about all these guys who are in this tier. You're talking about these guys, again, 17 and 20% wide receiver 1 and 2 historically observed from these guys in this tier. And when you're looking at this year's class, it's legitimately all of them. That is not good. This is why we're looking at this. I'm like, okay, the guys in this tier, they don't typically hit at a high rate, and all of them are in this tier. So it's like, I don't feel like you need to be a rocket scientist or a calculus professor or even an advanced fantasy football analyst to put 2 and 2 together there and say, not great. It's really not great. And we're going to have the same analysis for all these guys here.
This is Exhibit 101, this tier right here, why we're taking RJ Harvey over these guys.
That's literally exactly right. That's exactly correct. It's why the running backs we're going to be pushing up, which is again why
we expected to push them up.
Again why I was really fighting to put Scatterbo and Tootin especially up there in that tier with all those guys, because I could see myself. I could see my analytical brain.
I see it more this year than I ever have, because these guys who got second round draft capital analytically are ranked lower than what you generally see in that range, and analytically the 4th round running backs are higher than you've ever seen them.
Yes,
so that's where they come together.
And again, I don't want to dump on this class, but Higgins I think could be productive right away. I like the fit, and I think he could be somebody that gets a good value bump. Trey Harris, kind of the same thing. I mean, Trey Harris also a big body guy that's going to go to a situation where I think he will be productive.
This is a QJ do-over.
Yes, it is.
It absolutely is.
And I honestly think I have as many questions with Harris as I had with Quentin Johnson. But analytically, guess where he falls? Right after Jaden Higgins in that tier with the kind of crappy hit rates. So I mean, again, he's gonna line up out wide. He's going to be a boundary type wide receiver, and we'll see what the target volume looks like. He's going to be. I think he does. I think from a fit standpoint, this one makes a lot more sense than Higgins in the sense that he will really complement Ladd McConkey well in that offense. Yeah. And then Jack Besh is the last guy in this tier.
This is the fit that makes the most sense, in my opinion.
This is the fit that makes the most sense, and you want to talk about bad hit rates. Jack Besh with second round draft capital still is only the wide receiver 17 in the bakery, and you look at the hit rates for that tier: 12% wide receiver 1. 24% wide receiver 2, 29% wide receiver 3. And so slightly worse, not too much worse, but slightly worse. Not feeling super good about that. Again, like Besh is just, there's no way around it. His analytical profile is not good, and he would be an outlier if he hit. In fact, let's look at the tier that Besh is in. Overall, in the history of the bakery, I just want to pull this up. So scrolling down to this tier, oh my gosh. Roman Wilson, Rodney Adams, Jalen Polk, Equinemius St. Brown, Robert Davis, Jermaine Burton, Trey Palmer. There's no other way around this. Gabe Davis, maybe you could count as a hit. Darnell Mooney, you can count as a hit. Yeah. Don't even cut this. I want people to hear me like the pause here. This is the freaking worst range. He would be a serious outlier if he hit. Serious outlier. And I love Jack Besh, and I think that we had a second round grade on him. He goes in the second. I think he goes to a really good landing spot too. So I like him, and that's why we're ranking him in this tier. But we have to acknowledge that analytically, it's just rough all across the board. And then there's a big blank tier here right below this, and that's intentional, right?
Yes.
That's intentional because we think that there's a pretty big drop after this before we get to like the third round, fourth round wide receivers, and starting with Kyle Williams.
Yeah, so Kyle Williams at the top of the D tier here gets another nice landing spot. A sleeper that we said keep an eye on. It was our last video before the NFL draft happened, and he ends up getting day 2 DC. Third round draft capital for a wide receiver. Just honestly, historically speaking, is not great. We have come out with plenty of analysis on third round wide receivers and what their hit rates are, where they usually end up going in your rookie drafts. And is it worth taking a third round wide receiver over a fourth round running back? No, it is not, like, at all. It's not even close. You want to take those early day 3 running backs instead. But that being said, for Kyle Williams, if you were to bet on a third round wide receiver outlier, you would bet on someone like Kyle Williams, in our opinion, which is why he's at the top of this tier because of the new offensive situation there, the fact that Drake May can get him the ball, the fact that Demario Douglas, Jalen Polk, Keyshawn Boutte, all those guys have gotten opportunity after opportunity to be productive and take over, and they just haven't at this point. I think, honestly, the biggest threat in that offense right now would be Jalen Polk, because he's only had a year in that offense as opposed to everyone else who are just kind of one-trick ponies. Dante Thornton is very, very curious because he's the only one analytically that like had a ton of variance depending on what his draft capital would be. Like positive variance is what I mean there. Like when you're looking at the bakery, he was getting some like third round, even second round buzz in some mocks that we did. You put him in the third round of this year's class, he jumps up to wide receiver 5. If he had gotten second round draft capital, he would have jumped into the green tier, which is crazy with Tet McMillan. And obviously you want to be like a little rational with that and say, okay, well, the fact that that's the case is because he was ultra efficient with the limited volume that he got in college, because he just didn't get that much volume. But when he got the ball, he was ultra productive. His yards per route run was really solid. He just didn't get a ton of crazy target volume, and he was, again, kind of a one-trick pony in that he was able to stretch the field. He had big playability. He could win in contested catch situations. What you care about the most with this guy is his size. This guy's like a carbon copy of DK Metcalf from a measurables perspective. I don't think it was an accident that Pete Carroll decided to go and get him. So keep that in mind when you're wanting to take like late third round sleeper shots on wide receivers if you want to in your dynasty rookie drafts. I'm totally okay with you going ahead and just taking a shot on Dante Thornton, because analytically he's in a tier that has a way better hit rate than the tiers below, even the ones like Jack Besh. That being said, he did get 4th round draft capital, so it's a miracle that he, with 4th round draft capital, is even in this tier, and it is because of his analytical profile. Jalen Knoll, a day 2 wide receiver, goes 3rd round, is repaired with Jaden Higgins. He's going to go with him from college to the NFL, and I think their roles are going to be very similar in that Higgins is going to get more of the opportunity and volume consistently. Jalen Knoll is going to be the fireworks show type of guy, and Nico Collins in this scenario obviously is the alpha wide receiver there. So what's that leave Jalen Knoll as? Your 3rd option with limited volume. You saw how that panned out for Tank Dell last year when Diggs, Tank Dell, and Nico were all in the field together, which wasn't super often, but when you saw it, it was ugly. So probably not going to be a ton of volume there and production upside for Knoll.
I'll go through these last 2 tiers pretty quick. I'll let you take the G tier. Savion Williams, fine landing spot, but again, I think Savion, Pat Bryant, Alec Iamir, Ty Felton, and Isaac Tesla. Of these guys, Isaac Tesla has the most team investment. I think they essentially give up 3/3 to get him, which is very interesting. Maybe he ends up as a wide receiver 3 there, and you can talk about him maybe having some value. Ty Felton's a wide receiver 3 on his team as well. Alec obviously steps into a situation that's pretty wide open, but he got terrible draft capital, as did some of these guys. So most of these guys, we're going to recommend taking running backs over them. I will say this. Some of these guys of the guys here that are like our favorite sleeper picks, it would be Ty Felton and Pat Bryant, I think. Yeah. But most of these guys, again, are going to be mostly irrelevant in your rookie drafts.
Yeah, same with the G tier. DK goes 1st pick overall in the 4th round to the Titans, and an already kind of empty room. If you think he could be an outlier, maybe we'll see. Doubt it. Smith also goes to Washington, and then Jalen Royals, who was a big follower in this year's class, who we liked. Maybe there's a medical red flag thing going on there. Maybe it was the size, the measurables, the fact that he's kind of limited from a route running perspective more than we initially expected. He goes to the Chiefs. It's already crowded there, and then you have Jalen Lane going here as well in the G tier.
Yeah, so again, the wide receiver class, it's yikes. But know where these guys become value fallers, know where they become actually worth spending a rookie pick on, and then adjust, right? And take these guys where you need to, but they'll also balance taking your running backs and taking your other things there. So make sure, again, you drop a like, make sure you subscribe if you enjoy the Dynasty content, and as well, flockfantasy.com/domain. Code domain gets you double blueprints when you sign up for the annual Motherflocker tier for a limited time. We're going to be done with this right after the draft videos stop. So you can check that out, and we'd love to have you over the community. Send Nathan and I friend request a DM if you do end up joining so you can get to know you and get an idea of your team. But we appreciate you guys. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you later.